Alright guys, good morning. Well, good morning for me, afternoon for you, depending on when I'm gonna put up a video. And I always put it like around, 3? So yeah, good afternoon for you guys, and today we're gonna talk about part 2 of Silk Road Ross Ulbricht. Ulbricht? I already forgot how to pronounce his name. Please forgive me. I need my coffee. I haven't had my coffee yet. And right now it is brewing, so cool, right? Anyway, in this episode, I do want to say a couple of things I didn't say last episode. See now, because I was planning on originally trying to take out as much information and smush it into just one little part, but I couldn't, so it ended up being various parts. I'm thinking about 3 parts because there's a lot of information that I really want to throw at you. Anyway, since the beginning of the Silk Road, a guy named Variety Jones has been helping Ross with the site. You name it, he helped them, especially when it came to kind of like building a backbone. Because at the sense, Ross was a good guy. Ross never swore. To this day, he doesn't swear. Instead of saying fuck, he says fudge. He doesn't superly insult people. That is not him. That is not who he is. So he really needed Variety Jones to build, this backbone. But he still never swore, and I don't know. He was a pretty good guy. However, also since the beginning of this site were cops, obviously, like undercover cops, basically within the site its own, some posing as buyers, some posing as sellers, in order to draw out who was Dread Pirate Roberts. Obviously, no one knew it was Ross at the time. Obviously, right? Because when they found out, they went in on that bitch. Anyway, so they didn't know it was him. They were trying to find all these clues, trying to talk to him. No one was able to talk to him, basically. No one. It was really hard to fucking talk to him. There was even a particular agent that went by the name of Nob, N-O-B. Basically, he even shot a photo of himself saying, "All hail Nob." Well, his hoodie up to here. You can't really see his eyes, but you can see his nose and mouth. And you still really can't make up a good portion of him. You can't tell who he is, which is actually a good thing. He started posing as a criminal, as a buyer, and then started actually no, stop, sorry, hold up, no. He did pose as a buyer, but he wanted to pose as a buyer for the site. He offered Ross a good chunk of portions to find out relatively what was the cost of this site, how much was it worth, and all of that good check and change, so he could find out, relatively how big is this Silk Road, because no one knew exactly how big this thing was, how big it was worth. They just knew it existed and that they wanted it to go away. Now, Nob was kind of lowballing it. Obviously, he's just like, "Oh, I'll give you 4 digits for it." But Ross actually said, "No, you will actually give me 6 digits." Now, that was how much this thing was worth at the time. It was almost going to be hitting its 1 mil. So, it was pretty close, and that also gave the police a correct estimate as to how much profit this thing was bringing in from buying and selling drugs. And now, here's the interesting part of this whole thing. Also, around the time he started, basically, it's when, Ross decided to drop the whole Ross thing, and he was also knowing, how do you call it? He was wanting to put more and more security on his thing, on his actual laptop, right? So what he did was, I would say a good thing, but really, it was kind of so-and-so. See now, because with the help of Variety Jones, they both, like I said, they both kind of ran the site. It was pretty obvious that one couldn't really live without the other, because they spent all day and night speaking from when the sun came up, from when the sun came down, and until the moon was high and shining and it was time for them to go to bed. They were talking all the fucking time. They would also be speaking when Ross would go on certain trips abroad because he was looking for places to actually stash his money in for when the cops found out who the fuck he was and needed a quick getaway and needed to access his cash. Because the problem at that point, since the Silk Road was generating so much money, the only problem he really had was, how am I going to convert these huge amounts of Bitcoin into money without raising suspicion from, the government itself? And honestly, this brought up an interesting question because Variety Jones did say you should go here, and I have a few cops paid off there. Like, you can go there and apply for, citizenship. So that's exactly what Ross did. He went to one of those countries that Variety Jones recommended and applied for citizenship. However, it was not that easy. He had to go back home, even though he really loved being there. Now, remember when I said he sought, fucking help from other people? This was because the Silk Road was being attacked daily from different, from different hackers. And a lot of hackers would actually take control for a little while and then demand a ransom of Bitcoins in order to get the site back to them. So there was a whole bunch of things wrong with, the Silk Road, that even when Ross was out vacationing, you can call it vacationing or whatever, or when he was out abroad because he needed to find out where to go and set up various locations, these actions would actually be taking place and he would need to deal with them right away because they needed his help to fight the fight against the fucking hackers. And unfortunately, that's how it had to be done. However, at the same time, the first time that the Silk Road was under attack and they demanded a ransom, since it was generating so much money, they didn't really care. They just kind of threw it out the way. But Variety Jones didn't care. Ross actually thought about it. He consulted with Variety Jones, and he consulted with him about a lot of other things, not just about money, but also particularly how to run the site. In a lot of emails back and forth, Dread Pirate Roberts can be seen asking Variety Jones such questions like, what do you think about this? Or what should I do about that? Or this or that. It's basically, Ross might have been the creator, the all-powerful, almighty, all hail, but he was asking Variety Jones for a lot of, feedback. However, Ross was beginning to spread his own wings and to fly away, but Variety Jones, always saw himself as basically the co-pirate to Ross's ship. He didn't want to be just another follower. No, he wanted to be another person trying to steer the ship along with Ross. And even though Variety Jones was basically down for everything, for every drug, because keep in mind he was in jail for reasons that are not known, however. They're known, but they're not clearly known. There's a bunch of stories as to why he was actually in jail and his past and everything else. However, this ain't about Variety, this is about Ross, so maybe I'll do that another time. Anyway, Variety Jones kept trying to convince Ross to not, allow heroin in the Silk Road. He did not like hero. He made it abundantly clear when he told Ross that what he's seen in prison, they would change and everything. He would see people out of their fucking minds. And yeah, out of every drug, Variety Jones didn't like that. However, Ross, being a libertarian, he said no, because we shouldn't restrict people on what they can do to their own bodies. If they want to shoot up heroin, they'll shoot up heroin. If they want to snort up coke, they'll snort up coke. And many times within the Silk Road, Ross himself would, say messages, basically libertarian messages, saying that they were all doing this for a good cause. Basically putting in them speeches every day, almost every day anyway. He would only do that when he would feel like his employees weren't like their confidence was getting low. So he'd give them a confidence boost by giving them one heck of a speech. And to be honest, that would actually make them feel better. I don't know about you, but a speech like that wouldn't make me feel better, but about how much of a shitty job I'm doing. However, Ross was positive. He was certainly positive that he was doing things for the better, that they were making a change, and honestly, they did make a change. This impacted history in a way that we never thought that it would impact. But it was a kind of a good and a bad type of change that we got. I honestly do believe that someone using drugs, as long as, like, I don't know, I think it was better to buy them online than it was to go outside and fucking buy them on the street. Because honestly, I heard a shooting right before I was going to go to work. I mean, like, I was seriously considered calling in sick. There was even a lot of policemen, you know, a lot of people in the law enforcement itself that did see a decrease in gun violence when it came to drugs, when the Silk Road was most active. Now, as soon as it stopped, they saw it shoot right back up again. And obviously we know it kind of stopped, or else Ross wouldn't be in jail. He'd be a free man walking. And he'd be still running the site. The dude was addicted to running that site. He would be on there every single day. He would never miss a beat. Always want his employees as well to clock in, basically check in with him saying, I'm here. And that's the one thing about Ross. He wanted everyone to send him their IDs, a picture of their IDs, in order for him to know, okay, it's actually them. I'm dealing with this type of person or with that type of person. So anyone who wanted to start selling drugs at his site wouldn't have to show him a copy of his ID, of their ID, my bad. And honestly, I don't think it's a bad idea. Like, shit, if I'm trusting you with being here and we're both on this illegal site, basically selling shit, I'm sorry, tell me where you fucking live, tell me what's your favorite color, tell me what's your fucking pet's name. They all even had their own special code word in case something fishy would be going on, like just in case someone was following them and they knew someone was following them. They'd just type it in their little computer and they would know, oh, so we're like, we need to stop. They would basically throw that person off the site and block their IP address so they can never contact the Silk Road again. And this was only done as a way for them to, you know, basically stay safe. And again, I don't blame them. And that is actually where Variety Jones insisted that Ross encrypt his entire laptop because of an incident that they heard about other people having. They said that you need, basically Variety Jones advised Ross Ulbricht. I'm trying, and I think I should stop trying. Anyway, he advised Ross to have a dead man switch. Basically, as soon as he would press one button on his laptop, doesn't matter what he was doing, as soon as he pressed that shit, every information on his laptop was going to fry. And to make sure he encrypted his laptop with the most encrypt that, oh my god, no one can ever find out, because basically, yeah. However, Ross being Ross, you know, he thought he could come up with, you know, such a great password, such mind-blowing explosiveness password. And also within his laptop, it was very interesting. You know how when it says, how when your laptop says switch user? Well, he had that, but he also had a side for Ross, and it said his name, Ross Ulbricht. And basically the other one was for anything pertaining to the Silk Road. Now, this is where it gets interesting because he had a lot more, like, he did this so the two paths can never meet. So anything traceable between the Silk Road and Ross were completely untraceable. And to this day, the encryption for Ross Ulbricht, his side of the computer, was completely uncrackable. They still haven't encrypted to this day. His laptop is still, you know, is in a museum and everything. And they were able to unencrypt everything from the Silk Road side, but yet not Ross's side. It seems like he had more encryption and more power within his own side than with the other one. Well, it should have been the opposite way, my friend. Now, here is one thing that gets a little bit tricky, and I will say this before I end part 2. So, yes, these videos are rather short. Part 3 is going to be coming out next week. Anyway, guys, so within the Silk Road side of the laptop, which, like I said, is now in a museum, this part of his laptop was used heavily against Ross. And it's because Ross, oh dear, like Pauline Parker and Juliet Home, he kept basically a journal entry on day-to-day activities within the Silk Road. So, bottom line, if you're going to commit some sort of crime, any type of crime, do not keep a journal. I think this is pretty obvious. You don't keep a journal for a reason, unless it's like sweet and innocent stuff, you know. You don't keep one. You keep a journal if it's going to be sweet and innocent, but if you're going to write your day-to-day activities on what you do on an illegal drug site that is selling firearms as well, it passed. No. My sneeze went away and now my head hurts. Anyway, so basically that's what got him hooked on court, is the fact that he kept a journal entry on his laptop. Now, sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me this morning. Well, everyone, as much as I would love to stay here and talk more, I have to get going because it's 20 minutes already. And, well, before I start burping and all that once more, I will see you next week with another, part to Silk Road Ross Ulbricht, which I really hope I'm saying his last name right, because people give me so much shit on mispronouncing stuff when a bunch of people mispronounce my own last name. I don't know. Anyway, guys, I'm so sorry. I usually like doing long videos, but like I said, this one's already over 20 minutes. And, well, before everything, I will see if, you haven't checked out my past video, it will be in the description down below. Is for part 1. And, yeah, if you haven't checked out my book and you really want to read my book, go ahead and read that as well. Take a sample. It's an adult-themed book. I know it's kind of awkward for me to say that. Think of 50 Shades of Grey without the BDSM in it. That's basically what my book is. That and like a Romeo and Juliet fantasy type of shit. I don't know. I like it. I'm currently working on the second book, and I'm planning on releasing the second one and the anniversary date when I release the first. So June 27 is when I plan on releasing the second book. But you never know with these things, They go like, oh yes, it'll be released that day, but I don't know. That's what I plan. Will it come out exactly like I planned? I don't know. Probably not. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for your time, and I'm sorry this shit keeps running. And I'll see you next week with another video. Alright, guys? Goodbye.